Jamal Murray is the most underrated star in the NBA. Jamal is coming off an incredible 37-point performance that helped the Nuggets beat the Los Angeles Lakers in Game 2. And most importantly, not only was Jamal pretty good throughout the most part of the game, but especially once it came down to late in the fourth quarter, he absolutely went off. He literally could not miss a shot from out there, and that explosion that he had in the fourth quarter was the real determining factor for why the Nuggets were able to beat the Lakers. And at this point in Jamal Murray's somewhat young career, you would expect a guy who's putting up these incredible performances in the playoffs, not only this year, but also in the bubble a few years back, to have multiple All-Star appearances on his record and also multiple All-NBA seasons on his record. But when you look at Jamal Murray, he doesn't have either of those things, which in my opinion makes him the most underrated star in the NBA. But quickly, before we get the video started, for those of you who may not know, I'm Juicy Sports. I make opinionated NBA content, and if you guys enjoy videos similar to this, hit that subscribe button, that like button, and that post notification bell. I also want to quickly mention that I recently started up an MMA channel, and if you guys are interested in that, the link will be in the description. But anyways, let's get into it. Jamal Murray was originally drafted with the number 7 overall selection during the 2016 NBA draft by the Denver Nuggets. And originally when Jamal was being drafted, he was seen as a guy that had a tremendous ability to score. He mostly had a great ability to score from that 3-point range, but over the years, as he worked on his game season after season, people thought he would eventually become a true 3-level scorer. But although there was a ton of hype and excitement about his individual scoring ability, there was one major issue. People saw Jamal Murray as a combo guard. And what that means is he wasn't necessarily seen as a good enough passer and playmaker to be a true starting level point guard, but he also wasn't tall enough to be a true NBA shooting guard out there. So that really put him in a weird in-between range where it would be difficult to see where he would be best suited at in the NBA, and there were some questions and concerns about that. But even with that being said, teams really liked Jamal's scoring ability, and he still went pretty high in that year's draft. And relatively early on, it was pretty clear that the Nuggets have made a really good decision by drafting Jamal Murray. He was doing a phenomenal job at putting up really nice scoring performances, but over the years he was also doing a great job at only improving his game season after season. And eventually, after a couple seasons, Jamal was putting up incredible scoring numbers as he was averaging 18 points per game in only his 3rd season, and he was only getting better with time. But during the NBA bubble, that's really where everything changed for Jamal. Going into the NBA bubble, people saw Jamal as a rising star, a guy who was only getting better with time, but at the end of the day, they saw him as a really good starting level player at that point, and they didn't necessarily see him as anything more than that. But after having the performances that he had during that year's bubble, Jamal proved a couple things to fans. He proved A, that he does his best work during the playoffs, and especially in the clutch time, which obviously is extremely important, and you want as many of those guys as you possibly could have on your roster. But he also proved that he was a star. He was a guy who had the capability to put up 30+ points on any given night while also being extremely efficient and also playing through his team's offense. Because obviously there's a lot of different guys in the NBA that have the capability of putting up 30+ points a night. All these guys are obviously extremely talented. But when you look at Jamal Murray, not only is he being efficient with it, but he's playing throughout the flow of the offense, which just makes him that much better and that much more valuable because it promotes winning for everybody else on his team as well. But unfortunately for Jamal, he ended up facing a significant knee injury that ended up holding him out for an entire season, and I think due to that, some people forgot how good Jamal Murray was. But this season was the first year that Jamal was back, and he didn't necessarily play the best. Of course he didn't play poorly, but it was pretty clear that he was still being affected by that injury. And this is something that I talk about all the time. When players go through significant injuries that have a 1-year recovery time, like for example an ACL, an Achilles, or something like that to the lower body, I think that's really a 2-year injury. Even though it takes 1 year to fully recover from that injury, I still think the players are recovering in that 2nd year even when they're playing. Because even if that knee, for example, is fully healthy, that player probably isn't going to feel all that comfortable on it, at least initially. And it just naturally takes time for them to play in order for them to feel comfortable on that knee, and I think that's exactly what we were seeing from Jamal early on in the season this year. But as the season did progress, I thought Jamal got more and more comfortable with that injury that he had, and eventually going into the playoffs, that's really where Jamal fully felt comfortable, but also in the playoffs, as as we all know historically, that's really where Jamal plays his best basketball. And we've seen exactly that throughout these playoffs. Jamal has been playing phenomenally like he normally does in the playoffs, but this is probably his best playoff performance he's had yet, and that's incredible to say considering how well he played in the playoffs in the previous years. Because during this playoff run so far, I would say Jamal Murray has played really well in basically every single game. And specifically in that Game 2 performance versus the Lakers, I would say Nikola Jokic was playing really well throughout the most part of the game, but towards the tail end of the game, he wasn't necessarily playing the best. He was turning the ball over a little bit, he was missing a couple shots, and in my opinion, I think Jamal Murray was a sole reason for why the Nuggets were able to win Game 2. Of course, Jokic did a really nice job early on to get the Nuggets to that point, but the Nuggets were down by around 10 points throughout the most part of that game. But late in the fourth quarter, that's really where Jamal completely exploded. He just started to drain 3 after 3, whether you talk about catch and shoot 3-point jump shots, creating for himself from that 3-point range, deep contested 3-point jump shots. It was just very clear that Jamal could not miss. And that offensive explosion not only got the Nuggets back against the Lakers, but they even took the lead and took a decent lead late in that game, like a 12-point lead. And after that explosion that Jamal had, then that opened up opportunities for other guys like Michael Porter Jr. and others to get some nice looks as well, and then the Nuggets were really rolling at that point. So in my opinion, I do think Jokic did a nice job to get the Nuggets to that point, but I think Jamal Murray was the reason for why they won that Game 2 game, and they now find themselves up 2-0 on the Los Angeles Lakers. Now, even though the Nuggets do hold a pretty nice lead, of course the job isn't finished. They haven't really done anything yet. They won the 2 games that they're supposed to, but now either in Game 3 or Game 4, it's crucial that the Nuggets win either one of those games, or of course if they're able to win both, perfect, but more realistically, they need to win at least one of those games. Because if they end up losing both of those games, then the series would be 2-2 going back to Denver, and at that point it would feel like they didn't really do anything. Because when you look back at their previous matchup against the Phoenix Suns, the Nuggets actually were able to win both of their games at home as well, and they were up 2-0. But then they ended up dropping the next 2 games in Phoenix. Now of course they did end up winning the series, but either way, you would like to see the Nuggets go on the road and win one of these 2 games in Los Angeles. And if they're able to do so, then I think it's a great chance that they end up winning the series. I think either way, the Nuggets have a great chance to win, but if I'm Coach Mike Malone, I'm really making sure that I win either Game 3 or Game 4. And then going forward from there, it actually looks like the Miami Heat could make it out of the Eastern Conference at this point, which is a huge surprise, and at that point, who knows who could win that matchup between Denver and Miami in the finals, if that were to be the finals matchup this season. But of course, I guess only time will tell what does end up happening. There's a ton of variables to go at this point. It's still very early on in both of these series, and I'm really excited to watch both and see what happens. But anyways, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you think Jamal Murray is the NBA's most underrated star, or do you not think so? But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did enjoy it, check one of these 2 videos popping up now, and until the next time, peace out guys.